Justice. I love this story so much because I have two stories for you. One is about a man who firebombed a police vehicle and whose associate were driving around handing out firebombs. And he gets 1 year in prison and a fine and probation. That's make sure the context is all there. And the judge says, you're a good guy, Sentence is a terrorist to 1 year. There's another story. It's about a guy who walked into the Capitol building, put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk, and then made vulgar comments. That guy is facing multiple years for obstruction of a government proceeding. Now, I don't want to speak specifically to that one guy. He's just the iconic guy. But many of the January 6th defendants, while they did wrong, simply milled about. Some of these people have been completely acquitted because there's videos of police opening the doors for them. Some of these people were actually fighting their way on one side, while many others had the doors opened and were fanned in by police. That actually got more than one person acquitted. Now, one guy had some charges acquitted, but ultimately they were like, look, while, yeah, they did let you in, I can see right here you're walking over a barricade, so that you're going to get trespassing for. One guy was just like, dude, I walked in the building. The cop told me to come in. Showed the video and the judge went, yeah, that's actually correct. This is the interesting thing. I think there were several people in January 6th who opted for a bench trial, have a judge determine, and the judge actually was fair about it. And the people who went for the jury trial, well, just got the book thrown at them because the juries just hate you. But I love this. Attorney who helped firebomb NYPD car during BLM protest sentenced to prison. It's an amazing story where not only does he get a very light sentence, but the judge actually praises the guy. Okay, fine. This is why I don't live in New York City anymore. And it's sad. I was watching that video from Project Veritas the other day where James is in New York City. He's confronting this Pfizer guy. And he's like, we're here in New York City. And I was like, I kind of miss New York. There are things about it that are nice, but it's just a dystopian nightmare at this point. You can't do it. And this is exactly it. And now outside of these stories, we have CNN doing an interview with police. I think it's the police chief in Atlanta, in Memphis. I'm not sure, but a police officer who's saying that the video of Tyre being beaten by the police is worse than Rodney King. And they're going to be releasing that video footage tonight. Yeah, it really does feel like they want there to be riots. They let these psychopaths go, and then you'll get more of it. But if you're on the right and you so much as fart in the presence of the wrong politician, they will beat you, throw you to the ground, and lock you up forever without charge in solitary. Let me read you this story about this here feller. Yahoo News reports, in a dramatic hearing on Thursday, a federal judge in Brooklyn sentenced a corporate attorney who firebombed a police car during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests. Okay. Call it terrorism, call it a riot. But you can't say firebombed during protest. It's oxymoronic. Okay. It's paradoxical. A protest is when people are like waving little signs. A riot or terrorism is when a person is waving a sign and then threatening to kill you unless you give them what they want. That's what this guy was doing. Anyway, he was sentenced to a year in jail, arguing that his prestigious education, boarding school, Princeton, a law degree from New York University, should have rendered him a peacekeeper, not an instigator. You're not one of the oppressed. You're one of the privileged. Senior Eastern District of New York Judge Brian M. Cogan told Collinford Mattis, even as he expressed admiration for what the 35-year-old had accomplished in his life. A tale of two people. Let me tell you a story. One is about boarding school educated, Princeton law degree, millennial. And the other is a poor kid from the south side of Chicago. It's funny how this works, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, fine. I'm comparing myself to the guy, so sue me. But the point I'm trying to make is I did not have this upbringing, and you don't see me going around firebombing garbage. Okay, well, firebombing police. I didn't mean to imply that they were garbage, but I mean like firebombing things. And this guy, supposedly of all this wealth and privilege, is a dangerous, violent psychopath who could have gotten people killed and is only lucky that he didn't. Amazing. The sentencing marked the culmination of a 2.5-year legal battle that saw Mattis and his co-defendant, Uruj Rahman, now 33, become symbols of the nation's political tumult and divisions. Spanning 2 presidential administrations, their case saw competing imperatives play out in public and in the courtroom, as well as on social media. To the Heritage Foundation, they were terrorists. I mean, they're factually and literally terrorists. Terrorism is defined as the use of fear or force, a threat of violence, for a political end. Now, you can argue against it and say we don't like how the government uses it, whatever. That's what it is. These people were firebombing things because they demanded political changes. That is not democracy. Yet the Democrats, the left, defended these people. They still do. New York Magazine allowed that they could be seen as civil rights heroes, even martyrs. Oh, yes. Because as the saying goes, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. The Daily Mail called them woke lawyers. In the page of the New York Times, they were described by a guest contributor as victims of deeply ingrained injustices. That's right. The people who firebombed a vehicle and gave out more firebombs were the victims. The victims. Yeah. The real perpetrators are those dang old ladies trying to run that muffin shop. Run that muffin shop. You know, you're giving people sugar and they're getting fat. You know, have we considered that the old lady running her little cake shop is the real criminal? I mean, these people didn't kill anybody, but that old lady, she's giving people diabetes. Yeah, you see, that's why these storefronts there was no actual lady who was attacked. I'm just making the point that apparently to these people, the real perpetrators are the stores that are just trying to sell goods to the people who want to buy them. That's how they view the world, man. And these far left extremists who go around smashing everything up, they're the real victims. The Justice Department under Trump sought to put them away for 45 years, but then Joe Biden became president. And in both cases, the Justice Department settled for much less. They ended up pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit arson last summer, but both will lose their law licenses. Here's the best part. Quote, "You're a good guy, no questions," the judge told Mattis, dressed in a blue shirt and khakis, before reading the sentence. 12 months in it and 1 day, a fine of $30,000, and 1 year of probation. The judge asked for a few moments of quiet contemplation, a final opportunity to think through a case that had become a topic of national interest, a referendum on racism and policing, privilege and justice, not to mention the coronavirus pandemic that seemed to bring those and other forces into inescapable public confrontation. The facts of the case were never in dispute, but what those facts mean remains deeply unsettled as the nation continues to struggle with racial and social divisions. Yeah, the facts say that if you get a year in jail for throwing a firebomb into a police vehicle and passing out more firebombs, and the city protects these people, the facts say get them out of that city. I strongly encourage you to find a place to live away from these places before the firebomb lands in your car with your children. You take a look at what's going on in Atlanta, man, and I'll just say it's coming. Mark Pitkovich, he is a senior research fellow at the ADL, Center on Extremism. Even he says he was sentenced to a year in prison, which is considerably less than most people get for a firebombing. Attorney who helped firebomb NYPD car during BLM protest sentenced to prison. Now, I don't know if he's expressing disdain or glee. My immediate assumption, he was kind of shocked that this guy firebombed a police car. Look at that smug look on his face. He got away with it. I'm sorry, but a year is getting away with it. He firebombed and gave out firebombs. And they're like 1 year and he goes, wow, just think about the math. That's the risk factor. You tell these Antifa types your worst case scenario is a year. Don't be surprised when they go out and do way more. Now, he pointed this out. Final defendant in Trenton police car firebombing gets 27 months in Fed pen. Okay. It's not like it's always going to happen. This guy was a BLM protester. He got more than 2 years. It is what it is. CBS says, man who put feet up on Pelosi's desk found guilty in January 6th case. That's right. This guy. Should he have done it? No. Is he kind of a dick? Yeah. Should he be facing multiple years in prison for this? Yeah, probably not. He was prosecuted. Look at this. He's convicted of a series of federal crimes, including obstruction of an official proceeding, civil disorder, and entering a restricted building. He was also prosecuted for the theft of mail. Definitely should not have taken the mail. He claimed to have been in the moment and going with the flow. However, prosecutors, the AP noted, said Barrett was carrying a stun gun when he stormed the Capitol and invaded Pelosi's office. He faces multiple years in prison, sentencing May 3rd. Okay, well, maybe this guy doesn't get multiple years. Fine, fair point. But the reason I bring up January 6th is that some of these people who simply bumbled about, I'm not talking about the violent people. The violent people, you lock them up, okay? I don't care. You get violent, you're smashing stuff, you're destroying things, stop. You get locked up. The Doddards who bumbled about and got let in by the cops, some of these people have been in solitary for a long time. The solitary may be mostly those who are fighting, but a lot of these people were in jail for a long time, and they even raided innocent people's homes. What are they doing about Antifa on the far left? Well, I hope you're ready for this. Let me play this video for you. Let me make sure I get the audio actually configured properly.
You said that it is reminiscent, perhaps worse than the Rodney King video. Is that your assessment?
That's my assessment.
Really?
I was in law enforcement during the Rodney King incident, and it's very much aligned with that same type of behavior.
That it's worse?
Sort of groupthink. I would say it's about the same, if not worse.
If not worse.
If not worse.
So take us through the video tonight when it is released. It has been said there's over an hour. There's the pole cam, they said there's sky cam, and there's body worn camera video. What are we going, and how is it going to be distributed? Are you going to put it on social media? Are you sending it to the media? How is this going to be distributed?
Actually, we plan to post it on a YouTube link so that it can be accessible to just about anybody who wants to access that video. And we'll be pushing that out later on this evening.
Can I just want to say, they put out, this is a CNN interview. It's from 10 a.m. today. Police chief, video of Nichols beating worse than Rodney King. Okay. So you know what's going to happen. You know what's supposed to happen this weekend. You know what they want to happen this weekend.
The video is...
They did not need to come out and say it's worse than Rodney King. They did not need to invoke Rodney King. They did not need to do the interview in this way. They could have simply said, expect the body camera footage later tonight. And I fully expect the reason they're releasing the body camera footage tonight, typically news goes to die on a Friday. But this is different. Riots happen on Friday nights and throughout the weekend. This is them priming. You want to stop a riot? You release the footage on a Monday. Sure, it gets a lot of press. But then everyone kind of forgets about it and moves on over the next few days when they're at work or school. You want a riot? You release the news on a Friday, so people are at their maximum outrage and going out Friday night with no work or school in the morning.
Broken into 4 different sort of fragmented pieces, but they're all very relative to this incident. The initial stop, the stop near Tyre's home, and also body-worn camera of individuals that were at that scene.
Is it was it released later on a Friday after 6:30 Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time? Was that we were told? I don't know if it's true. You can confirm it. It was so that the officers could leave the building safely in case there are protests. No,
not at all.
Then why?
Well, we think about the entire public. To tell you the truth, we thought about schools, we thought about business. We felt like Friday afternoon, if there were individuals decided they wanted to peacefully protest, at least other individuals would have, gone home, schools would be out, and it wouldn't be as disruptive as it would have been if we released it on a Wednesday afternoon.
So I just want you to think about what she just said. People have gotten out of school, they've gone home. She's outright saying people will be available. Because what you'd really do is you'd say there will be much less protesting if people are at work and school. Instead, she literally just said they opted to release this at a time when everyone was at home.
In this video, it is said that Tyre Nichols cries for his mother. Did you hear that?
I did. I heard him call out for his mother, for his mom. I did.
And?
That's why this incident, not just that, but just the disregard for humanity, as I mentioned before. I think that's what really
they're getting ready for
just
it, man.
Pulls at your heartstrings and makes you wonder, why was a sense of care and concern for this individual just absent from this situation by all who went to the scene?
Speaking of the people who went to the scene, have you spoken? Did you speak to any of the officers after?
I have not.
You have not?
I have not.
It really does seem like they're trying to do everything in their power to ramp up the emotion. It's worse than Rodney King. Yo, you didn't need to invoke that. He was crying out for his mother. He was. The lack of humanity. It's like they want to make sure everybody knows to get ready for tonight.
You spoke to the family of Tyre Nichols?
I have. You know, I think I was just as emotional as they were. And you can't help but feel their pain. You can't help but even take ownership of what they are going through. And I've extended and availed myself to the family in the days to come, not just as, you know, a police chief, but as a mother, as someone who felt the pain of Ms. Wells and her loss, and the sense of responsibility to do whatever I could, especially in the first steps of justice, you know, to terminate these officers, and, you know, and hopefully the rest of this process towards justice will be as swift.
It's not going to do anything. The process of justice, terminating the officers, I think they are being charged with second-degree murder. We'll see the video, man. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You're not going to fool me a third time, all right? Here's my concern. We've been burned before. I mean, the Ahmed Arbery case, it's shocking. And I feel like there's got to, you know what we need in the Ahmed Arbery case? We need the federal government to intervene on civil rights grounds. The story is absolutely shocking. And it's no surprise that Democrats and leftists don't even know anything about the case or what had happened. And even to the extent that I was very critical of how the government handled the Ahmed Arbery case, I had people come on the show who explained in further detail the travesty of justice that was, how the court proceedings went down. That is to say, the judge gave improper instruction to the jury explaining the citizen's arrest law. Here's the issue. I don't like that anybody lost their life. Ahmed Arbery should not have died. But Ahmed Arbery should not have been burglarizing a building and then trying to take a shotgun from a man. And I'm not going to hide from it. Like so many others who came out and said, see, the McMichaels were convicted. That proves there's justice. Whereas Kyle Rittenhouse also proves there's justice. And I'm like, ain't playing that game. Don't know. Don't care. Write every smear piece in the world about me. I will not lie about the facts in the Ahmed Arbery case. Like so many cowards, even on the right, who are like, well, see, there's justice. Shut up. You know, it's far from perfect what these guys did. The McMichaels were ordered not to pursue, but to act like they were hunting down some guy jogging. I know this one really pisses me off because it's a travesty of justice. And again, I don't care about whatever smear pieces they want to write. Go for it, you psychopaths. Ahmed Arbery was a felony burglary suspect who was on camera committing felony burglary, period. He did it. Everyone tried claiming it was trespassing. In fact, in the beginning, I said it looked like trespassing. And then I got to learn what burglary actually meant. Breaking into someone's home. I said, oh. So when the police went around and said, here's the picture of the guy, and then later they went, hey, yo, that's the guy the cops are looking for. Hey, that matches the description of the dude who had been burglarizing our neighborhood for months, and maybe the guy who stole a gun out of a truck. They said, we need to stop this guy. And then Ahmed Arbery, you want to know how you know it's a travesty of justice? And I'm sorry to harp on this for those that already know the whole story, but it really pisses me off, is that the dude who simply filmed what happened got like 20 years in prison. It was all political. Says to me that the real reason they want to lock these guys up was, you've embarrassed us on the national level and we're not taking heat for you. It's a crazy story, man. Now, I understand, from Ahmed Arbery's perspective, he's got a car behind him, a car in front of him. He could have run a different direction. He could have done a lot of things, and it's a tough situation. But Ahmed Arbery flanks around the truck and then attacked Travis McMichael, trying to take his gun from him. During the struggle, the gun went off, and he took a hit to the chest, and he died. And for that, they claimed the McMichaels were lynching a guy who was jogging. Spare me your lies. I went over that story, and it's truly a travesty of justice. So I tell you this. When they come out and say these things, I'm not going to flip. I want to flip the bird. But I will say this. I'm a reasonable person. I will watch the footage, okay? But I do not trust any of you. Hamming it up with Don Lemon, worse than Rodney King. Shut up. You sick psychopaths. We don't want violence. We want accountability. The cops have been charged already. How about that? But you know what? It's not going to satisfy the lunatics. So whatever. I suppose we can only sit back and wait and see how this one plays out. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.